Hall of Fame broadcaster Marty Brenneman here. It is the Mayor's Office with Sean Casey, and it starts right now.
I'm living on the air in Cincinnati, WK.
Bam, Chinch, we're back at it, baby. We're back at it.
At it, man. And you keep bringing on these, like, Renaissance men, like these old school, fancy, cool guys who we looked up to back in the day. What do we got today?
This guy today, brother, is one of my favorite. Listen, when you meet this guy, he's one of everybody's favorite guys in the world, right? So I'm so excited to have him on. Let's give a nice intro for him like we do with our guests, Chinch. And like I always say, bro, this guy's a dear friend of mine. I had no idea he was this good of a player until I start researching. I'm like, shit, this guy's actually pretty good.
Hey, watch your language.
Sorry, Hummer. Also, he doesn't curse, so if you curse, he'll be like, "What the heck's going on?" So, listen, one of my favorite coaches of all time, it was a guy in the clubhouse where you're around Tom Hume, you're a better person for it. Played 11 years in the show. First round pick of the Reds back in 1972. 92 saves, was both a starter and closer and a setup man. 82 All-Star, Fireman of the Year 1980. Absolute stud. Shared the award with Raleigh Fingers, and I think that's the award you think of when you think of Raleigh Fingers. Had one of the nastiest cutters. He was my BP thrower. One of the nastiest sinkers you ever seen in your life. I'm like, Hummer, you trying to get me out before the game? This is ridiculous. So without further ado, let's bring in one of my favorites of all time, my man, Tom Hume. What's up, Hummer?
Hello. I hear that clapping.
Quick, it's like a golf clap for you. Me and Chinch, just a real nice golf clap, Hummer. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I'm doing very well. I'm doing great.
Dude.
You talk about the BP, that's like Dimitri would always say, BP game ready.
Game ready. Yeah, when you faced Hummer during batting practice, like I would tell Dimitri, I was like, dude, I'm locked in. I'm like, I just faced Hummer for 15 minutes. Guy's free to throw. He's throwing one of the nastiest two-seamers. This guy can't have a nastier two-seamer Hummer has. It's unbelievable.
But I wasn't trying to. I mean, I could have embarrassed you, but I didn't.
I think you might have broke one of my bats in BP one time. Like, dude, no one ever breaks guys' bats in BP, but Hummer, but I did like it though, because you would allow me to shoot to left center, and that's what I wanted. So your ball would just boom right there, wham. So I started loving it when I first got to the show. I'm like, this guy's filth. Give me Mark Berry. But then when you get in there,
give me that double nickels.
Yeah, give me double nickels, baby.
And I only hit one guy. I hit Bronson one time in the cage. We were bunting.
Did you? Tell me about that. Bronson Arroyo, right?
Yeah. He was. We were in Pittsburgh, and they said go on in and let the pitchers hit and bunt and all that stuff. And he squared the bunt, and I hit him like right in the shoulder. But that guy was he was like one of the best too. I mean, he's great.
I actually have a quick Bronson Arroyo story for you. When he was one of my first times ever going into a locker room to get sound from guys. Arroyo was there. He was obviously the nicest guy in the world, but obviously from what I've heard, kind of a clown and has a lot of fun with people. And I think he could tell that I was kind of intimidated my first time. And I was like, "Hey Bronson, can I talk to you for a sec?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Hold on one second." He had his underwear on. And he just got completely naked and just turned around and stood there. And he's like, "I got all the time you need, man. What do you need?" And I was like, "God damn." I couldn't look down. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, that's my contribution there.
Sounds like something Seaver did.
Oh, really? Oh yeah, dude. Tell Hummer. Seaver was one of your best friends. To talk about what about Tom Seaver? What was so great about Tom Seaver that you loved?
Everything. I mean, from his seriousness to his antics to just a guy that you're like, oh my gosh. And I mean, to this day, I'm like, I can't believe that. And I tell everybody that everything I learned was from him. I mean,
wow. I'd
be pitching in a game and I'd come in and I'd pitch a guy a certain way, and he wouldn't, if I didn't felt like I did the right thing, he'd tell me to sit down, ask me some questions, and then he'd get up and leave. And then I'd come in the next inning. He said, "What'd that guy show you?" I said, "Well, I'm not really sure." He showed you because it was Bob Horner. And I threw a pitch inside, and he popped it straight up in the air and was yelling at me all the way down the first baseline. Don't you ever throw me there again. And he came in and he says, what did he tell you? And I said, well, he said, don't throw him there again. He says, you keep doing it. He says, because he likes to hit that. He wants to hit that pitch, but he can't hit it. So, it was different things like that. And one time we were in Houston and Seaver was pitching, and it was 81, I believe, the year that Fernando won it was the strike year. He won the Cy Young, and we were out there pitching, and we were winning 5-3. I came in to save the game, and Seaver had pitched, and I gave up a 2-run homer in the ninth off of Cedeno hit one, and so we ended up winning the game. I got the win, and we ended up winning the game and got off the bus, and I was trying to got up, going to the right to go tell, and they grabbed me. He and the pitching coach grabbed me and said, no, you're going this way. You're taking off this way. So they took me into the restaurant or wherever. We sat down, and they just aired me out. Before we passed away, he says, you cost me the Cy Young Award. And I said, yeah, I know, but you think about it, I got the win. So he'd always, I wish I had the cards ready that he would send me from the Hall of Fame. He'd send those little cards they have,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he'd sign them, and he'd put these little things all around the outside, you four-eyed minor league mother. And he says, I've looked, and then he'd send another one and said, 47, this is from 41, love you, buddy. And then another one he sent was right on the outside, and he says, I can't find your name or your plaque anywhere. And he'd send those, send those to me in the mail, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Just different little things like that.
Do you have those Hummers still? Do you have any of those?
Oh yeah, I
cards?
still have them. I still have them.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool.
Actually, I thought I had them right here, but I don't know what I did with them. But he would send those things, and I would crack up. I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is he not the best or what?
Yeah. So when did you first meet Seaver?
Well, when he got traded over there in '77.
Right. And that was your first year in the big leagues too, right?
That was my first year, and for some reason I met him that first month, and then the last month of the season I was with him, and he just kind of took me under his wing and told me things to do, things not to do, kind of tweaked my mechanics a little bit and helped me and what to do and things to do. You don't do this, you're going to end up with arms not going to be any good. You're not using your legs. You're throwing stiff arm. You're doing this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Tom Seaver. Tom Seaver.
What was it like when you guys heard the news? That was a crazy thing. In New York, I'm from New York. He's leaving the Mets and he's going to the Reds. You guys must have been beside yourselves, no?
Oh yeah, and then they ended up being that year with 77. I mean, the Dodgers, we came in second, but we were 20 games behind. That's how good they were. But for Zachary, Flynn, Danny Norman, Steve Henderson, and somebody else. But those five guys for Seaver, and it was like an unbelievable. You still couldn't believe, like you said, you couldn't believe it was like Tom Seaver was coming to our team.
Yeah,
it was just something that was, unfathomable, and he just kind of just took me out. I being a rookie and then going into the next season, I was like the sponge. I took everything and I could, and the bad thing is now you talk to these kids now, and I try to, I say I learned everything from these certain people: Seaver, Bench, Morgan. Even Rose, a couple of things, Foster, just different parts of the game where I wanted to learn from the outside of what they were thinking. And they would tell me things, but anyway, I tell kids and they're like, who?
I know.
Why don't you go look at I wish that every team would make players they signed go back and look at the history of whatever team that is. So they know somebody say, hey, Steve Carlton, pitched for the Phillies, you need to, who? Like,
Right.
and I think about things like that, like the guys that are on this team that were on the team I played on, the first team I pitched on, it was like Foster, Geronimo, Griffey, Rose, Concepcion, Morgan, Dreesen was at first, and bench. And I'm like, and you're just like in awe still, of those guys that played that year that they would never even be able to pay that team this year. I mean, in these times, with the guys they had.
Oh, it's true. It's true. I think you look back at you're literally, when you think about Cooperstown, so many of the guys from those teams, are in Cooperstown, but and some of the best ever. Morgan and bench being obviously Rose is not in. But I think with all the gambling going on nowadays in sports, maybe Rose should be in at some point.
Yeah, I mean, like you do the math.
Yeah. Who knows?
Concepcion. I mean, he probably should be in there. I mean,
I think he should be too. Hummer, what was it like, dude? Because I think one of the coolest things for me was when Marty went in the Hall of Fame this year. We went up to Johnny Bench's hotel room, and it was you, me.
Oh yeah,
you, me. Johnny, Danny Graves, Dunner, Doug Flynn, and then who else was there? The closer for the Big Red Machine.
Eastwick.
Eastwick was there. Eastwick was there too. I mean, it was unbelievable. But the greatest was that when Johnny gets talking, it kind of holds court. And they talk about he does the same thing at Cooperstown. Like Johnny holds court, with the guys that are going in, and boom. But with Johnny holding court that night, and Dunner's, got his kids there. But it was so cool because he was going down like certain stories. And there was a story, I can't remember, but I want you to tell it. There's a story with you and Johnny Bench. I don't know if he was putting down the wrong fingers or he had to come out and talk to you. Do you remember the story he told?
Well, if I gave up a home run, he always put down the wrong finger. I mean, who's going to second guess Johnny Bench?
Right.
Seriously. And he blamed it on me. I'm like, Sparky comes out to take me out. I mean, he's the one that called it. But no, I remember. I know what you're talking about. We were playing in Cincinnati. He says we were playing somewhere else, but I don't remember where it was. I just know we were at home, and I was just like, I'm going to try to throw this ball a different way. I'm going to hold it a different way, and I threw it. He called timeout and walked out, and he says, "What was that?" And I said, "What?" And he says, "That pitch you just threw." I said, "I don't know. I just held it like this." And he says, he had the ball in his hand. I said, "I just held it with the seams." And he hits me in the chest. And he says, "Keep throwing it." So,
is that what he said?
That's how I learned my sinker.
No way.
Yeah, I'd never thrown a pitch like that with the seams. Everything I threw was 4 seams. And so he says, "Keep throwing it." So that's how I learned it.
And why did you throw, were you getting hammered that day? Like, were you just getting crushed? Like, did you just decide to mix it up? Like, I'm just going to, the 4-seamer's not working. It's up in the zone. I'm just going to, were you trying to throw it trying to throw a 2-seamer?
I just tried it one time to throw a 2-seamer, and that's what happened. I don't know. Remember if it was the first month of the season I was there when I got hammered, and I look at these guys now and I'm thinking, for me, it was like, I'm embarrassed, a third of an inning. I start the game, a third of an inning is 5. I give up 5 earned runs and I'm gone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I gave up a double to the first hitter. I can't remember who he was. I mean, I remember, and it hit the line like this far fair for a double. The next guy hits a double up the middle. And so the run scores. I think it was Bill Madlock, and because it was against San Francisco. And then I walked somebody. So it's first, well, then another double scored 2 runs, and another one scored another run. So I got 2 runs. and then I walked somebody and had first and second. 2 runs are in. I got an out. My first big league out was Willie McCovey.
Was it really?
He hit a little fly ball to center field that Geronimo was up against the wall to catch it. So, and then I gave up a 3-run homer to Gary Thomason at the stick that hit the facing of the upper deck.
That's a bomb, which is a bomb, right?
That was a bomb. That was the longest home run I gave up. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that was my first game. And then, so I ended up the month of June. It was from May to June something. I don't know. But I ended up with a 12 earned run average that month. And I'm seriously, I was praying to get out of there. I said, this is.
Were you like, send me to AAA, send me back?
Yeah. These guys are like, there's got to be a different league because these guys are way up there. So I finally got sent down, and they wanted me to go down and be a reliever. And I came back, and I ended up the last month. I got my first win against the Dodgers. Pitched seven innings to get the win.
As a reliever.
Yeah, I came in for Billingham in a game, and he was actually my roommate, Jack Billingham, and I came in for him and pitched 7 innings and ended up getting the win. And I ended up being 3-0 that month, and took my earned run average all the way down to 7-something. So, but it was 3-something for that month. But oh my gosh. I realized then that these guys are playing the same as me, and I don't be as scared as I was when I was there the other month. I was like, get me out of here. Please give me another chance.
So, what was the biggest difference from being a starter to being a reliever? And what year did you develop that sinker? Was it that year that
it was that year? It was that year. I did. To me, it was. I didn't have really much. It wasn't really much of a transition. I didn't feel. Yeah. I just knew that I just wanted to pitch. I didn't care what it was. I did some spot starting. I became a full time because then when they put me in the bullpen in 1979, John McNamara was a manager, and he says, "We're going to put you in the bullpen. It's not a demotion. I just want you to go down there and learn how to do it." So I ended up like pitching long relief, short relief, or long relief, middle. That's when they had the different things,
Right.
Long, short, middle. I mean, long, middle, short. It wasn't any like closer. It was, so, and I ended up closing out that year or being the short reliever. I ended up with 17 saves that year. And that was the year we went to the playoffs. And, well, maybe that wasn't the year. It was the year before. I know his first year there, but it didn't matter because the one year, I think it was 79, I had 137 innings.
As a reliever.
No starts.
There's starters nowadays that aren't getting
80.
137.
Yeah.
In 80, you finished the most games in major leagues with 62 and had 137 innings pitched in 1980.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wait a minute. That was, in 1980, I had 162 innings and starting and relieving. And I came in second ERA, which would have been a travesty if I'd have won it. That was in 79 because J.R. Richards had 300-something innings and he won the ERA.
Wow.
And I lost it by, I think, 1/100th of a point or something.
Wow. Yeah, 79, you had a 2.76 ERA. 80, you had a 2.56 ERA.
But then in 1979, I had some starts in that year. That's the way you get to be able to contention because you had to have 162 innings.
12 starts.
And I had pitched 4 innings on the night that we were trying to clinch, and he wouldn't let me go another inning. If I'd have gone one more inning, I would have probably won this ERA.
Oh, what did you say?
But he was saving because we had the playoffs coming up. So that did a lot of good. I think I got 2.
You're saying losses. Like for you saying now, like, oh, I pitched 4 innings 3 innings here and there. Like, what about the way they, like, you obviously were a pitching coach in the big leagues. You were a bullpen coach in the big leagues, one of the best. And, you know, the way they use the bullpens now, like, what's your thought about that? Like, how they're using the pens? Like, the starters aren't going that long now. They don't even go through the third time. How would you deal with being a bullpen coach now using the bullpens?
Well, you just kind of got to be ready. I mean, you mean if I was a pitching coach?
Yeah, well, if you were a pitching coach, if you were a pitching coach, or as the bullpen coach telling these guys, hey, man, you know, what are you telling these guys in today's game?
Well, they all have now pretty much different roles. Back then, you didn't know. You could be in the long, short. You could be in the middle. But I remember when the 1 year I did pitching coach to fill in for Vern Rule, rest his soul, and Jerry Nairn was the manager, and he would ask me, what do you want to do here? And the guy's in the 7th inning or something, and I'm like, he's dealing. I mean, let's leave him in there. You know, I mean, let's go ahead and let him get in trouble or something, or get out of trouble. And there was a couple of times that we just left him in there, and everything was fine. And then, or he would say, oh, "No, I want to go get him." I said, "Okay, you know, you're the manager. I'm just, you know, you asked for what to do." But I like the part of, let him get out of trouble. 5 innings, and they've thrown 65 pitches. Okay, let's get him out. I'm like, oh my gosh. How are you going to save your bullpen? You know,
right?
What are you going to do if these guys? And the craziest thing to me is when they start a reliever and let him pitch 1 inning. You know, they start him pitch 1 inning, another reliever in, and then let the starter try to finish the game. Well, that guy is not. He's not even. He's not accustomed to doing something like that. You know, and I think it messes with your head a little bit. But I started, I relieved, then I went back to starting. Then when I got traded, I was relieving, but then I spot started a couple of times when I went to Philadelphia for 1.5 years. But it didn't bother me any. It was, I just tried to take it the point that I was going into a game, Yeah. Oh no, now I'm starting. Oh, now I'm ready. No hard feelings against anybody. I'm just saying, a lot of them that messes with their head, but I don't know. I was just kind of in tune for that because when we came up, if you didn't do good, you're sent down. You're not going to be, you're going back to the minor leagues. And that's like every spring training I went into, I thought I had to make the team. I wanted, even though I'd been there for that many years, I had to make the team. I wanted to make sure that was my mindset, to be aggressive on everything. Not just, I'm working on my pitches, my curveball wasn't working too good today. I was trying to work on them. I never went into it like that. I went into it like it was like the season. And so, but I don't understand that, some of the things that they do with the different bullpens, or like you said, different starters. Guys got a no-hitter into the 8th inning. We're going to take him out. Oh, I mean, what's 15 more pitches,
Right.
Well, yeah, but just thinking those 15 pitches, he might get hurt. What happened to the other 85 that he threw that he was perfectly fine?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
I was talking to Dempster the other day, and we were talking about, it seems like starters, it's kind of max effort now. For however many innings you're in there, you're not really setting up guys for that next at bat. Because I know, like, if I faced a guy like Dempster or Roy Halladay or these guys, like, they might throw me my first at bat. They might go sinker, slider, right? I'm like, well, man, okay, I'm on that sinker. But then next at bat, they might go cutter, change, and I'm like, whoa, what the heck's happening? It's almost like, and then he'd go curveball, and then next at bat, slider, four-seamer. And I just remember facing certain guys like, wow, they're setting me up knowing that they got to face me. If they want to get through this lineup 3 times, they can't just max effort me that first at bat, second at bat, third at bat. They actually have to game plan for the whole game. And I think that's one of the things that's changed in the game now is starters know I just need to get through 5. And if I get through 6 and 7, it's a bonus. I just got to get through 5 max effort and then give it to the pen. Do you feel like that's, what you're seeing too in this game? And can you imagine, is that as a starter, did you feel like that you were setting guys up knowing that you'd have to get through them 3 times?
No, I mean, I'm not kidding, and it might sound like a joke. I went max effort every time.
Right.
I started or whatever. I mean, I went until they had to take me out, whether it be in the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, or seventh. I mean, there was a couple of games. I think I never threw a shutout. I threw some complete games and never had a shutout. I've lost a couple of shutouts in the ninth inning. And I think there's a couple of them I remember, but one of them in particular, we're in Chicago, wind's blowing out. I'm in the ninth inning. I'm winning. Ninth inning, I'm winning 1-0.
That's unbelievable. With the wind blowing out in Chicago, that means your sinker was working unbelievable that day.
Yeah. So something was. So I'm like, I think about that now, and I'm like, I wouldn't be in there in the sixth. You know, I might finish the sixth inning and I'd be gone. But here I am in the ninth inning, and I gave up I think I got an out maybe, and then gave up a pinch hit double to Larry Bittner. Now I'm facing Kingman with the base open, and I'm gonna try to make my own pitch. I threw him a curveball in the dirt. He one-hands it into the basket. I lose 2-1.
Oh my gosh, no way.
I'm like, oh my, but I think that's how the pitching coaches were then, or the manager. They're going to pitch. You're going to pitch until you look like you don't have it anymore.
Right.
And I was never in any trouble, and I always got out of it. So they just left, they left me in there. But, and I had a couple of games like that where, I'm maybe in the ninth inning, lost that out by a home run or something like that. But I think one of them was against Atlanta. I was winning 2-0, and somebody hit a home run off me, but I finished the game still. I didn't come out.
Right.
I wasn't that great a starter, or we had these other guys on there that were they were guys that I always looked up to, and we back to the guys that helped me, but like Bench, he would always talk to me. Him. He wants to tell. Yeah. He wants to tell, like, hey, you need to do this and do this. Like getting guys coming up to the cage, and I'm like, okay, you know it. I know you know it.
Did he have more of a final say than like the manager? So you're on a mound and you're kind of in between. We don't know if you're done yet. Was it Johnny who made the decision if you were out or not, or was it really the manager? Like, was he heavily involved in that process? Like, he don't have it anymore, or he's good.
I think you can, as I always said when we were coaching, you can see it. I mean, you can tell. I mean, if the guy is struggling in the fifth inning and he's throwing 85 pitches, or he's in the fifth inning and he's thrown 50 pitches, good and well. And if they're going to take him out, why? I mean, he's given up 10 pitches an inning. But I think that a lot of it, like Sparky relied on Bench. I just know, because he'll be over there and he might be catching, and when the pitcher might be looking down or something like that, he might like look over and, do something. Hey, let's get somebody up. Like the story that you were up there. I don't know if you remember, in the room that night, there was a pitcher, Jerry Arrigo, and Bench is catching, and he was a left-hander, and he was in Cincinnati, and he gave him a breaking ball, and he shook him off, and he's like, no. And breaking ball, shook him off. Breaking ball, shook him off. And then he did it like 4 times. And finally puts down a fastball, and he says, yeah. He throws a pitch, and it was high and outside, and he caught it barehanded. He's like, that's why he wanted. So, and then back then they had this thing they called how a raisin looks. It's all shriveled up, and they called it a raisin heart. So he goes on the mound. The guy goes, it's like you squeezing that raisin heart, like you just embarrassed me so bad. So, there's things that.
And Bench's hands, if you've ever shaken Johnny Bench's hands, he could put like 8 balls in his fingers, I think, like that. But his hands were like catcher's mitts.
Oh, yeah.
Like I could see how he just grabbed a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. Nope, give me the curveball.
And now they look like this. They're all, hey, you throw a fastball. I said, nobody can throw a fastball with those fingers you got. they're all going different ways, but I mean, we still talk. We talk about the hitters now and then, or even some of the. I'll ask him, "What about this guy now?" But he was a big influencer on me. So was Joe Morgan. So was Foster.
What are some of the things? What are some of the things like Joe Morgan would tell you? How did Joe Morgan influence you as a player?
I think mentally more to watch him play. Just the way he went about it, 100% every single time, and just the things he would say. Maybe, hey Tommy, next time you want to do maybe. Try doing something like this, or this guy's going to try to do this to you. And, these guys, they know, and guys talk, you talk about a certain pitcher or something like that to some other opposing team. I mean, actually, I know before he died, I told him when he went into, not him, I think I was up there when Oster went into the Hall of Fame because, Oster was like a great friend. And
to the Reds Hall of Fame.
Together. And I went up there to watch him get inducted. But after it was over with, I went up to Morgan. I said, you know what, I appreciate all that you did for me all those years, just watching you play, the things of encouragement you said. And about, I don't know, a month later, I get a card in the mail signed by him telling me how much he appreciated me as a teammate and what I did. And I was like, you know what? That is just so awesome that he would do something like that. It's just something that really sticks with you,
Yeah.
And Foster was more of a mentally type to,
Come on, Tom. You got to get him out there, Tom. Come on,
he
Tom.
was more of a joker, sarcastic joker, But you could tell
Still
me
is.
things that, tell me things that like you got to be thinking this. You got to make sure you're, and I think there's different things like that these guys would tell me what to do that I appreciated so much that I wanted to take it all in.
Yeah.
And then like playing, I played with, I played against, and I played for Pete. And
Yes.
pretty quiet, he didn't really say a lot. If he did, he was more of like, let's get you, let's get
Pete didn't say a lot?
No. Oh, well, he would scream at the other pitchers, laying on the railing out there. You ain't got nothing, and pace up and down the dugout screaming at him. But when you played for him, if you did what you're supposed to do, he wouldn't say anything. It's like if you're not putting out though, that's when he would get on you. I mean, he would bury you, and he did it. He did that when he was playing too, though. But
what about Rose? Like, what was it about Rose's mentality, Hummer? You're in the clubhouse with him. You see him play every day. What was about Rose that was different?
He is locked in. He was locked in. I mean, BP, spring training BP until his hands would bleed. I mean, he wanted to just continue constantly hit. I mean, that was the whole thing. He just he was just locked in. You just watch him. He had a big barrel chest. And he's like walking around. Like. But that's the way he is, and he had the air about him that you just look at him and say, he just can't wait to get, after his 15 cups of coffee, and can't wait to get, what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, I remember him telling Davey Collins one time. Dave Collins told me a story. He said they'd go out to stretch and, they're at Riverfront Stadium and look up on the board, and we were in batting practice. Remember, they would put like league leaders up there, right? And I think Rose was hitting like 268 at the time, and it was late. It was probably like, he was saying it was like late June. And he goes, "Hey, Collie, it's a shame." He goes, they got all those guys up on the board, but it's a shame they don't have the guy that's going to win the batting title up on the board yet. And he won and he ended up winning the batting title that year. Like, and Collins was like, he was serious. He was serious. He's like, and he ended up hitting like 330, but he was hitting like 260 something in June, but knowing that I'm about to get super hot, Yeah.
Well, and he was always had a sense of humor, though. I mean, we lost a game one time. We were on the bus, and Sparky and them are up the front, and I was back towards the middle, and Rose is back there telling jokes. and quietly, but then you just can't hold a laugh in. And I kind of just laughed a little bit, and boy, Sparky stood up and just yelled back there, but it was like he was talking right to me, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
What'd he say? What'd he say?
He just, he was like screaming this, we just lost a game. It's not like it used to be. That clubhouse was silent. That bus was silent. When you lose a game back then, it was silent. You didn't say a word, and I remember it was tough. I mean, he was tough on rookies. First time I got called up, there was a pitcher, Doug Capilla, left-hander, right-hand pitcher, Paul Moscow, and myself. And it's like, I didn't say anything. These two guys were always, they're always talking. But when one of them, I say them, but because I don't remember what I did. But when one got in trouble, all three of us got called in there. And I remember him calling us in there the first time, and he's saying, let me tell you something. You're in the major leagues now. You do not speak to the veterans unless they speak to you. You don't talk to them, and you don't hang out with them unless they speak to you. And I just want you to remember that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like,
Oh my God.
I'm like, I'm scared to death because I never did it. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm like, okay, yeah. But
so what'd you do when Tom Seaver first said hi to you? Were you like trying to hide?
I went, hi. He figured out right then that he was going to toughen me up. Hey, when I was a rookie, Susan had relatives that lived in Atlanta, and we were staying at this hotel. And I said, Sparky, my wife's coming to Atlanta. He says, okay, fine. You got to stay somewhere else though. He wouldn't let
really
my wife stay at the same hotel, so I had to stay at a different hotel because I mean that's how tough it was. He wasn't messing around now.
Oh my gosh, that's Hummer. You're the greatest thing, bro. You're mentioning so many legends of the game and the conversation you had, friends of yours, and all this stuff. Of all the guys that were on your team, when you first got to the big leagues, who did you face that you're like, oh boy, I can't believe I got to get this guy out?
Well, I think Willie Stargell.
Yeah, Pops.
He's such a nice guy. He just made you feel comfortable, And I think that was his intent. Because he never was a tough guy. He never acted like he was a hard guy or something like that. And I'm like, oh gosh. His last year he played, I gave up his last 2 home runs of his career.
You did? Oh, that's awesome.
470. Yeah, well, it is now. 474 and 475. His last year that he played, he was 3 for 4 off me. And I don't see him over there.
Yeah, he is. Hang on.
Oh, there he is. I see him.
There he is. He's
Pops.
right there. Hey, he's right here.
I see.
Hey, Hummer.
Boy, that's a nice outfit you got on. Where'd you get that?
He's smuggling grapes.
Look at the legs.
Oh my God.
Hey, you know what Stargell's saying right now? He's saying, hey, thanks for 474, 475, Hummer. Appreciate it, brother.
Wait.
No one. That's why I'm on Casey's wall now.
Wait, let me go
Rich,
back to.
Come on now,
I got you.
That outfit.
Unbelievable. As I said, he's smuggling grapes around his house.
Oh my
Wait,
God.
you said he was 3 for his last 4 against you. But
Yeah.
I got to say this. He was only 4 for 11. And he only hit those 2 home runs off of you. So you
What
kind
do you mean? That's like 360. Are you nuts?
I know, but it was
Yeah.
3 for 4.
Right.
But before that, he only had 1 hit and like 7 or 8 at bats with no homers. I'm trying to
Yeah,
give your
but he
friend
had-
credit here. You're running around back there.
The last year he was 3 for 4. He hit 2
Yeah.
home runs, but the other base hit was a single off the wall.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah.
Was it really?
Yeah, line drive off the right field wall, and he could, he couldn't run, so he was a single. And the time that I got him out, he hit a ground ball to shortstop. I broke his bat. Wow. So, but who really got me a lot was Dale Murphy. I mean, you can look that one up. He had 5 home runs off me.
Yeah, but you know what? I've been staring at that one too. He only hit 271 off of you. 16 for 59, 4 homers, 9 ribbies.
4 homers.
But you struck him out more than anybody else you ever faced. 12 times. 12 strikeouts.
Yeah, I struck him out a lot. I don't know. But Mike Schmidt, I gave up a grand slam to. I think I gave up a grand slam to Tim Tuffle.
Tuffle.
Wow.
Pinch hit grand slam.
What happened? You tried to get the two. You tried to get the two-seam, or wait, you tried to get it away and it just right over the plate?
I'll tell you, the one year that I broadcasted, I said, good gosh, can I go back and pitch? I see how to pitch these guys now. Because they would throw breaking balls at these guys' back foot, as you know. And you look at these guys now, they swing at balls that are going to hit them, and they miss them.
Yeah.
Sean?
I know.
I don't think you did. You always hit the perfect pitch every time.
Yeah, I was one of them. I dominated. What?
You are the dominator. Oh, my gosh. But, I just think about the certain guys. I think, Ray Knight always says, oh, this guy's my best friend. He throws me all these nasty pitches. I think he was like 1 for 13 off me.
You got it, 1 for 13.
And my wife always says, how do you guys remember what you got a hit off you or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know. It's just something that stands out. I mean, I don't remember some guys that hit a home run off me. I mean, I gave up 89 home runs. I know that.
Yeah.
Susan's like, hey, Tom, can you pick up some bananas and eggs at the grocery store? And then you come home from fishing and he's like, did you bring the banana and the eggs home? And you're like, no, I forgot, honey. And like, hey, back in 77, I threw a two-seamer to Willie McCovey, and then I threw a slider curveball. She's probably like, what the heck's going on around here?
I did that yesterday when I had to go to the grocery store. I called her up and I said, what was that you said? But I don't know. And there's just guys that it didn't matter. The little guys were the worst. I remember my last year, I think it was my last year, I was pitching against Atlanta. I was with Philadelphia. I hit Hubbard twice in the same game in the butt. And I'm like, he's thinking I'm throwing at him. I said, why would I throw at you? I mean, I get you out every time.
Yeah, you dominated him. 7 for 44 and 51 plate appearances. He had no shot.
And he's wondering why I hit him. I was, why when I hit you, you're an out. Glenn Hubbard. And I'm like, oh my gosh, seriously, as you would say, seriously, dude.
Clean it up, you pig. That's what I'd say.
Yeah. And I just think of things like that, but it's just that it's funny when you play it as a team and you're around everybody, you talk to people a lot. You get out of the game and all of a sudden it's like, have you talked to Danny lately? No. Have you talked to Sean? Well, that pig, he never calls. But, and I'll text guys, you know me, I'll text you out of nowhere. Yeah. If I'm thinking about guys, I text them. And tell them, hey, how you doing or whatever, but like Bench, we talk every three times a month or something, just try to keep up, and I tell them, okay, your turn. And, but, just to keep up what's going on and things that happen. And I've kept up with Raleigh a little bit more and some other guys. Doug Flynn, he's the freaking worst.
He's the best. Flynn won't get back to you, but he's the greatest guy in the world.
Yeah. I'm like, he came down here and it's, hey, this and that and this and that. And I said, well, you never even call me back. Hey, Sean, you're right? Am I right?
Yeah, that's right. Flynn was down in your neighborhood for a week and called you when he got home. It was like, hey,
that's what Ray Knight did one time. Hey, I'm on my way home. His daughter lived in Venice.
Right.
Just down there. And he says, I said, I'm going to come and see you. And I was like, where are you right now? He says, on Lake City. I'm like, you were down there for 4 days. And I'm like 20 minutes from you. And but we just kind of, it's like when you talk to people that you're close to, like you and
dude,
or whoever it is, it's like you talked yesterday.
Exactly.
But
speaking of that relationships, because I think that I don't know, man. I was just out in Colorado a couple years ago. We with a couple buddies, my buddy John and Doug, and you took us fishing. What a great time that was. I mean, Colorado's so beautiful. You're the luckiest man in the world. You got a beautiful house down in Florida. You got a beautiful house in Colorado. You got some blessings coming everywhere, but you're a big fisherman. And I want to bring up a story. Do you remember the time when we were playing the Astros and Dunner had us out? Remember he had us out to it was like it was
called the pond.
The pond, yeah. And what do you remember about that? It was me, Juan Castro. Was Ryan Friel there? Jason LaRue.
No, LaRue wasn't there because his family was there.
Oh, yeah, he was tired. He was,
Hatcher. It was Hatcher.
No, Hatcher wasn't there. No.
Oh, okay, because he used to go with us too.
Yeah.
Were you guys there? What's going on?
We catch these reds. I don't even know what the hell they are, Hummer.
Redfish.
Yeah, redfish. These big old redfish. But Hummer's like a real legit fisherman. I think there's an art to it. I'm throwing it in there. I'm like, I'm not catching anything. Hummer's like, bam, I got one. Bam, I got one. But I'm like, this guy's unbelievable. So, do you remember that? Dude, that was one of the best. And then we had to play the Astros that night. Or it was an off day, I think. We went and cooked them up. It was unbelievable. But those are some of the times I remember that I loved. That day was so fun.
Were you there the time when Dunn caught the redfish and he was getting ready to bring it in, and his brother Brad was or Jason or whatever his name, Brad.
Yeah, Jason. Brian.
But anyway, they had the big round net, and you'd lower it in to get the fish in.
Yeah.
I don't know if you were there or not, and I was videoing. Yeah, this is big, and his brother lows net down. They get the fish, goes in the net. It came out, goes in, came out, and then it breaks the line. And Dunner starts hitting him with the rod, blaming it on him. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? You're the one doing the net, but I'm like, oh my gosh. I was trying to look for I had a picture here I was going to show you, but wait a minute.
Juan Castro still sends me those pictures. Like, hey, remember we went fishing for.
Whoops.
Oh, there's Seaver. That's Seaver.
Yes, this is it. Can you read that?
No. What does that say? I know it. I can obviously see. What does it say though?
On the top it says 247. And it's that Hall of Fame plaque.
Yeah.
Keep dreaming. Tom Seaver, HOF. Number 41. And they go, and then on the bottom he writes in himself, Cy Young, 69, 73, 75, Rookie of the Year. And it's already on this plaque, but he wants to rub it in. He says, and how about your plaque? and then this is another one that says 247, love you. Tom Seaver, number 41, and it's got FEMLMF, four-eyed minor league mother.
That's so great.
And then he has it on this one, another one, and it has 311 wins, and he's got a circle and then a line down at the bottom that said it would have been more with a little help.
That's so great, Hummer. That is so great.
That's the one I told you about, that he was like, I mean, I have all these pictures, guys fishing and way back when and the things that we did. And they're like, how do you have all those pictures? I said, well, I pretty much took my camera everywhere. So
yeah, you did. You were I was telling Chinch, you were the gadget guy. We'd be on the road. This is like late 90s, 2000. Like, hey, where's Hummer? He's at Best Buy. And then you'd come to the clubhouse. Like, look at this new camera I got. Hey, look at this new microphone I got. Like before they had it. You know what I mean? I'm like, dude, Tom Hume's, all he does is spend his money on technology stuff. Oh, look at that, baby.
Wow.
Look at that. That is a good looking, that's one of the best looking people you've ever been around.
I've ever been acquainted with.
You've ever been acquainted with. Oh my God.
Great haircut there.
I got some. I texted Gravy because Danny Graves and you were obviously really tight too. And I texted Gravy, hey, you got any stories about Hummer? And he texted me back. This is what he said. He said when he would warm up, this is when you were the bullpen coach. He said, when I would warm up in the pen, he would sometimes tell me who I'm facing the next inning. And then he would ask you, say, but he would never really say who. He would say Babe Ruth, Hank Aaron, Joe DiMaggio. He said just 3 random Hall of Famers. Why would you do that? Why would you do that to them?
Well, to get their mind off of what they're thinking about. I mean, and I learned it from just to get the laughing started, Chris.
Yeah.
Oh my God. For those of you at home who aren't watching this, there's a full out. It was Sean Casey with a pig face
John
on.
McNamara, and he was probably the best manager I ever had. And I came in and into a game, and I got in trouble in the last inning, and I had a man on first. Then I got a base hit, and I got an out. Then I had a base hit, man on first and second, 1 out. The inning before, I had hit a double off the wall to left center.
You hit the double. You hit the double.
I hit it. It was like this far below the yellow line. You know, I had to hit it above the yellow line, or it had to go above the line or go into the seats right there. And I was just like, yeah, I got it. And I almost got thrown out at second. But anyway, he comes out and he looks me in the eye. And, you know, I'm like, oh, gosh. I'm like all tight. And he looked at me in the eye and he goes, you can hit. He turned around and left. He turned around and walked off. Next pitch, they threw a ground ball, double play, game's over.
Wow. Oh, my gosh.
Getting my
great.
mind off of things like that, you know, and I think that's where I learned that about these guys. You know, Merker was one of the ones, he was the worst. Hey, how's it look? How's my velocity look? I said, it's really good. And all the whole time I'm going. And I said, looks really good. But he would always want to know how his velocity was, you know, what it was like. How am I throwing? But, you know, I'd always tell him he was good. And one time I said, it's really, you know, you better work on some other stuff, you know.
Better throw the slider today.
He'd always want to know because he wanted to know what pitch to use. You know, if that pitch wasn't good, he knew he had to go to something else.
Right.
So, you know, it's things like that. And, but Danny, you know, he was.
Yeah, what'd you love about Gravy? What'd you love about Gravy? Because I know, like, I came up with Gravy in the minor leagues with the Indians. We both got traded over to the Reds right around the same time. And, you know, he had filthy stuff, but you got a chance to really, be with Gravy out in the pen. What was it about Danny that made him maybe the greatest Reds closer of all time?
He got put in the game with 3 runs up and 2 outs. No. He doesn't even want to talk about it. He wants to talk about those 2 home runs he hit in that ballpark.
In Houston, that like just got over, like 294, and what's that porch called?
Like 195 down the line, you know.
Yeah, just pooped it over. He pooped it over the fence. It was like, this is what it sounded like off his bat.
You know, Danny, to me, I mean, this is kind of inside stuff, but he was always acting like such a tough guy. You know that.
Right.
And he was kind of soft outside, but inside he was a tough guy. It was hard to crack it. You know what? You're trying to figure him out. You know, okay, yeah. But inside it was like he had a lot of anger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like trying to break him down like that to be able to do something that was, you know, I need you to, whatever you're feeling inside, I need you to feel it outside too. You know, you don't want to show the emotion when you're out there and you never let your enemy see you cry. You know, you don't drop your guard. I said, you got to go out there and be the same out there as you feel that you are inside. You know, I mean, that's just the way you got to do it. And to be, you know, for me, I was different. But when I walked in on the other side of the line, I was a completely different person. And even when I was coaching, I just wanted to like, oh my gosh, how can one pitch, you know, or why did Casey swing at that? Are you kidding me?
Right.
But I think that's what it is. And I think another thing is that the competitiveness or telling him, quit picking around, you know, go at the hitter. And I think that he started going at the hitter more. I'm not saying that I did it or anything like that. I'm just saying.
I'm saying you did.
And Gabe White he and Gabe White would be unbelievable. I mean, they would go out there to try to see who could throw the least number of pitches in an inning if they went in. And I think that helped a lot between them because it made them throw strikes.
Yeah.
Gabe had really good control, so he was able to do that. His ball didn't move like Danny's, but and they did that. I mean, that was one of the things, the competition, they had to do something like that.
And Scott Sullivan, when you talk about those guys, Scott Sullivan kind of pops into my head too. Those guys in that Reds bullpen, Sully, Scott Williamson. And I feel like Sully was like a guy like you. I feel like that one year Jack McKeon was like, hey, just bring Sully in again for the 800th time this season.
Kidding. But I think that, they're completely different. Sully was a tough guy,
Yeah.
He's a tough guy. I mean,
I was scared of Sully. He was like the, hey, listen, everybody, I love everybody. Then all of a sudden he'd flip a switch. I'm like, run for the hills. Sullivan's pissed.
Yeah, his fuse is about that long, but the thing about him, I think what they found out, he was so good in the middle of the games.
Yeah,
they tried to put him in. It didn't at the end. It didn't work too good because he would. But the middle of the game, boy, he could mow them all down. But then you got Scott Williamson. He learned how to he learned what to do until he got hurt. But he just had that fork ball, whatever he's threw, that was just
nasty. Yeah.
And it was just trying to get him the mindset of quit throwing so many pitches that I don't think that he really got it. But boy, if he threw it over the plate, they weren't going to hit it.
It was. I mean, Scott Williamson for a few years there was one of the nastiest people in baseball. I mean, it was just
no doubt.
Sullivan, Williamson, and Graves, and then Gabe White. I thought a big reason we won a lot of those games was because of our bullpen.
How about Big Sweat?
Oh my gosh, the Big Sweat. Tell me about the Big Sweat, because this is great. Dennis Reyes and Paul Konerko come over to the Reds for Jeff Shaw in like 1998 offseason, right? They had a trade in Paul Konerko to the White Sox. That might have picked the wrong first baseman, but that's whole another story. Anyway, but the big,
think so.
You don't think so? But the Big Sweat, bro, the Big Sweat. We called him the Big Sweat because, first off, his arm was like up here, and it turns out he was a right-handed pitcher, and then his uncle, he got thrown on the ground when he was 5. They had no money in Mexico to fix his arm, so they told him to start throwing lefty, and that's how he became lefty, right? He was unbelievable. But this guy, Big Sweat, could go out.
They put a belt around him with his right arm in the belt so he couldn't use it.
Did they really?
Yeah, and that's how he became a left-hander.
What?
He was hurt. He was hurt, and he couldn't throw anymore. So they put a belt around his body with his arm in there, so he had to throw left-handed.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And became nasty. But Big Sweat was like the greatest guy. But he could literally be in the frozen tundra, and he would go take a coldest shower you've ever seen, and he'd come out and he'd be sweating. And you're like, sweat. How are you sweating? Like, he'd get on the flights, he'd have full suit on, full sweat, like he was in a freaking hot tub. I'm like, dude, it's unbelievable. But he was nasty, though, too. I mean, we had some nasty lefty out of the pen there, too.
Yeah, there was Stan Belinda.
Yeah, Dirt.
The Dirt. Yep, Dirt. But, those guys were that was such a good bullpen, and we just tried to – they were such good friends and everything, and nobody was against anybody. It was everybody was pulling for everybody because they all had different roles. They all had their things to do. And that was the whole thing back then. Yeah. And,
Hummer, what do you remember about Harnish, Pete Harnish?
A lot. What a great guy. I mean, you're talking about somebody I keep up with. We keep up with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, dude. And what's going on? But
he's the best.
He was the best.
I saw him a couple weeks ago. His son, Jack, was playing for Fordham. My son, Andrew, was playing for Dayton, so I met up with him. We watched the game together, and then we went out and got some pizza. And he's bucking. Oh my God.
Harnish would get the rest.
Explain the picture, Sean, if people listen.
Explain the picture. Harnish would get buck naked at spring training, fully lathered, and go onto the team bus and be like, all right, guys, Good luck today.
He
Go
was
get him.
he was like it was like we were getting ready to break camp, and then we were going on a road trip, and he sat down on the bus with John Allen and Bowden on the bus, and John Allen was like, "Oh my gosh," and then Jim was like, he was just like stone faced, you know. But and we're like, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable."
Oh
But,
my God. So funny. There were so many characters on that team. Hummer, one other one I wrote down. I think Ken Griffey Sr. gets overlooked about those Big Red Machine teams and how good he was. And I just wonder, like, I know when we were playing with the Reds, I felt like Ken Griffey Jr. always had admiration for you. You guys had a really good relationship. Do you remember Junior as a kid? And you and Senior are very tight too. What was Senior like, on those teams?
Well, he just played, and he would laugh, and he was just a guy that was a great teammate. But I think we really didn't. We were friends, but we weren't like really, really good friends until we started coaching together, and because he and I would hang out all the time together. I mean, it was just me and him, and then those
everyone else. Yeah,
and it was a long story, but and I remember when Junior was little, and Craig, and they're around the ballpark all the time, and Bradley was a little guy, and but Kenny was always we were always good friends with Bertie and Kenny and Danny Dreesen and Bonnie, and they'd always have those little parties, but we would always be the ones that we would get to go with them. So yeah. But we're at the ballpark one day, and I asked Susan, I says, "Where's Bradley?" She says, "Well, I don't know." And they would run around the tunnel there at Riverfront. So he'd get back, and he'd be all sweaty like a little kid and huffing and puffing. And we said, "Where have you been?" He says, "Well, I went with Craig and Kenny. We were just underneath the stands and the bleachers and everything, and they were just taking me all over the place." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," And Kenny was always in trouble. Not Craig.
Junior was in trouble. Yeah,
he was always one in trouble, but Craig was always the one that's like, But Junior was like the one that was just had no fear of anything, But and I think that's where a lot of that helped when I was coaching, and Bradley would come, like when he went with us, and it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big deal for him to be around those guys.
Yeah.
And, I think about my grandkids now that I wish they could have been around when I was coaching, a couple of them were, but my granddaughters, one grandson is like so big in baseball, Holland, and his little brother, Luke. And then I have on the other side, Nikki's boys of, Holden, Reed, and Garrett, but the littlest one is like way into baseball. Holden wants to be a pitcher, and I'm like, he's 13. I got him, at least throwing now with a break a couple times a week, playing catch with his dad. And then I have Madeline and Amelia, the two girls, and Madeline just graduated from high school, and she's going to Florida State. And then my
you know what that means, Hummer? You're getting old. You got all these grandkids now.
No, they're getting older. So we're that's kind of and Susan and my daughter-in-law Elizabeth and Nikki, my granddaughter, my son-in-law David, and it's just been, and we all live in the area, so it's like
so great,
all the things that's going on, which is this unbelievable thing, watching them grow up. And I've been very blessed. God's been very good to me, and especially the people I've met, no kidding aside, I love you like a brother. And, I just think about all the times we did. I think about the time we went on the boat with Todd, and you remember when we went out on my friend's boat, and I think your friend, Jay, and went out on the boat. We went out there when it was
and we were jumping. It was Jay Adams, and we were jumping off that was awesome. That was a great day.
On my friend Jay's boat with Todd and
Todd Walker.
Yeah, and
that was great.
And then when you were on the jet ski going about 85 miles an hour, and
no, that was not safe.
Hey, where's Sean? But I think Chris, one of the funniest times is that year in '99 when we would win. Those guys, and I tried to text Dimitri last night, and he couldn't remember. What was the song you guys sang every time?
It was 2004. Whiskey for my man, beer for my horses.
Oh my God!
It was Toby Keith. We would pass out a beer to everybody. Yeah. We'd teach everybody, even some of the Latino guys that didn't know English. We'd be like, "Here, learn." I'd have Juan Castro go, and he would get some of the guys. He would teach everybody. Everyone knew the lyrics. So even if you didn't know English, you knew justice is one thing you should always find. You gotta saddle up your boys. You gotta draw a hard line. They would go through and sing it. But that was one of the greatest things ever about that team. We had so many good guys on those teams that we would do that.
The one lyric, it was just everybody at one time.
Yeah.
You know? And I just stand back and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. You know, I mean,
so great.
We might have had the best team, but we had the best fun.
We had so much fun. Those years in Cincinnati, man, I've still talked to so many of those guys saying those are the best years of their career too. Hummer, I got two last things here. We do this thing called 9 and 90. Chinch asks 9 questions, and we do it really quick. But before we get to that, I just want to ask.
Say that in English.
We do this thing called 9 and 90. 9 questions. It's really not 90 seconds. It's really turned into like 2.5 minutes. Okay. But we're going to do that at the end here. But before we get there, I just want to ask one thing. You went to the '82 All-Star game. Give us a story. What's your memory from the '82 All-Star game?
It was in Montreal. It was I don't know. It just was out of the country. You know, it wasn't the same. I mean, it was great. I made the All-Star team that year. Lasorda picked me, and he says, you should have been on the All-Star team last year, which was '81. He says, but I thought you deserved to be there, and that's why you're here. I had that was the year I got hurt, and I got hurt in, I don't remember, June. Tore my knee up, but I still finished it. And I pitched in the All-Star game, but I got to go until I think August, or I ended up having surgery, or September or something like that. And he says, you deserve to be here. And I mean, he was always good to me. Remind me to tell you another story after this about Manny Mota. So anyway, Steve Howe was pitching. We're in the 9th inning, 2 outs. Or 1 out. Steve Howe's pitching. He got an out. Lasorda brings me in. He says, I'm going to let you finish it off. And actually, Buddy Bell was at the plate, and I threw a high slider, or hanging slider, but he popped it up the right field, and I got the save.
Wow. Nice.
Concepcion ended up getting the MVP that year.
Wow.
But it was the experience of a lifetime. I mean, it was just something that in my professional career – that was one of the best things I had, besides seeing the things that I saw with Tom Seaver's only no-hitter, Tom Seaver pitching, Pete Rose getting 3,000 hits, and 3, the other one 2, and 44 a game hitting the streak.
Yeah.
Johnny Bench hitting the most homers for a catcher. I think about those things that I saw. That I'm not taking anything away from the guys that get elected to the Hall of Fame now, but I'm like, to me, those are the real Hall of Famers. And I hate to say that, but, I just see guys now that, you look at their stats, and those stats were so different, because I think that longevity was different then. You remember when those guys, some of those guys, when they started playing, you had to have 20 years to get them pension,
Right. Wow.
And, I think about Russ Nixon, and, the things that he would tell us about. He was at the plate when Roger Maris hit his 61st home run. He was catching. And I think about the stories that I got to hear back then that were just unbelievable. But the All-Star game was exceptionally, and that's where, I got it on my wall, all these guys over here, and I remember every one of them. I remember how they played, what they did, Mike Schmidt, I played with him for a year and a half. Carlton, I played with him. And I think about those guys, and it's like, I'm still in awe of those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But the story I was going to tell you about
Manny Mota,
I was getting hammered.
Yeah.
My first month, the last month I went in to pitch there, it got to me that the Dodgers or somebody, I don't know, had picked up my pitches. So
sign stealing.
Yeah, they were
tipping.
finding out what I was doing. But what I was doing, I'd come up like this. I'd come up like this for a breaking ball. I mean, a fastball, and I would come up like this with my hand set already for a slider. Wow. So I started putting the ball in my glove when I started. But Manny Mota was the one that picked it up. But he'd always make fun of me. He says, "What is that pitch you threw right there?" And he'd think I was throwing a spitball. When I loaded up. I couldn't do it, but he was the one that picked up my pitches. But he would, those guys would talk. They pass around a league. Now they just tell your teammates, but then your teammates go somewhere else.
And
they tell those teammates. And then I think that's how, about picking up pitches. It wasn't you were stealing signs. I mean,
we were trying to. I mean, Eduardo Perez was one of the best. Yeah.
It was legit. If you were sitting out there.
Yeah, you just can't use a camera. You just
I mean, it was legit because of the pitcher was doing something. It wasn't like
right. No,
the second baseman or whatever.
Yeah, and if you're tipping, that's on you. So, all right, Chinch, 9-90. Go ahead, Chinch.
All right, I'm excited.
Chinch's going to ask me a question. I'll answer it, Hummer, and then bam, you're going to answer.
Yeah.
Hall of Fame baseball broadcaster Marty Brennaman here. It's time for 9 in 90, the most ridiculous segment in all of sports.
All right, here we go. Don't be scared. This is stupid. Case, simple one first. Wallet or money clip?
I don't use that. I don't use either, guys. What I do is I put my stuff in my phone case right here.
We're talking about 20 years ago, not now.
All right, 20 years ago, I was a wallet guy.
I just put it in my pocket. I didn't have a wallet.
You just put money in your pocket?
Yeah, I had to. Susan getting me a credit card. I would say probably a wallet.
All right, there you go. All right, Case, tough one. Your go-to candy at a movie theater would be?
Lemon Heads. 100%.
Raisinets.
Yes. Oh, man.
Like that.
I love both those, but Lemon Heads.
Okay. Superhero.
You are.
Superhero.
Always got a sour push.
Yeah, I can't take that. Case, Batman or Superman? You can only pick one.
I'm Superman, because Batman's like the dude that just has a lot of money and a lot of gadgets. Like, this guy's not a real superhero. He can't even fly. He can't shoot lasers out of his eyes. So I'm going with Superman.
Well, the new one can, but I'm going with Batman because he can now. But back then he was kind of conniving, and sneaky.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's like you're a modern day Batman. Huh?
And you said gadgets. He had the gadgets. I like that.
True. I do like the gadgets too. All right, this is a good one. Split the bill or take turns paying with your friends.
I take turns paying, except if you're with Hummer. He's like he gets alligator arms. He can't get into his pocket. You're like, what the hell, Hummer? We've been to 18 lunches in a row. You haven't paid once.
I like giving, so I like paying the bill.
Nice, awesome. All right, this is a good one. What's worse, bad breath or bad body odor, Sean?
I'm gonna have to say that bad breath. Bad body odor. You get a whiff every once in a while, but bad breath. If a guy's in your face, it's devastating.
That's why you're on the microphone. You don't want to see that other guy's breath. We're not having him in the studio. But I'm going with the body odor because the farther you're away, that wind could be going the wrong way.
That's a good point. Good point.
All right. That Campbell soup is terrible smelling. That's what I always called it.
The Campbell soup. Case, country music or 70s rock music?
70s rock.
70s
rock. Definitely right. 70s rock.
Good one. I'm with you guys on that one. All right, eliminate one of these forever. Ketchup or mustard?
I'm going to have to probably eliminate mustard.
Really? Okay.
I'll go with mustard too.
All right.
Now, if you had to keep it out, I'd have to say mustard stays.
There you go. All right, this is a deep one, Sean. Would you rather be feared or loved?
Loved.
I'd rather be loved.
Take that.
I don't want to be feared. Nobody.
I
don't have many friends now, but it's not because they fear me.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Sean? It's too deep.
We're getting deep.
All right, this one was not deep. Okay, you first, Sean, and then Tom, you take it. Your approach versus Tom if you were facing him in his prime.
Oh,
and then vice versa.
100%. I got Hummer. Let's face this guy enough. I'm telling you, bro. His two-seamer was nasty in BP. I'm sitting dead sinker. I'm on the dish. I'm going to shoot that ball to left center, and there's no way he's coming in on me. I got him.
Huh?
I didn't. He might. I just didn't like throwing left-handers inside.
Really?
But a couple of times I did, and that down and in, they rake down and away, the other way. I think I'd probably go with the four-seamer up and away, though.
Did you hit a lot of guys on purpose?
That's because I watched him hit so much. He liked that. He liked to swing it up, middle, away all the time. The inside, he knew he couldn't hit it, so he didn't swing at it.
Interesting.
But if it was in that zone in there, that little zone from away to in, he would rake.
Wow.
And he wasn't like everybody else. If it was in, he could still go the other way.
Well, you see so many people nowadays. I tell people, I say, I can't really hit the inside pitch. I'm like, well, stop swinging at it. Stop swinging. Because if he can do it 3 times in a row, it's tough to do it in the big leagues. They can't do it 3 times in a row. One of them is going to be a mistake.
One of them is going to be a mistake.
No doubt.
Here we go. All right, that was 9 and 90. We did
All
that.
right, Hummer,
Excellent.
you are the greatest, brother. And first off, I just want to say, Susan, Hummer's wife, first off, is one of the greatest human beings alive. I don't know how she married this guy, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, she hurt herself. She broke her leg a few weeks ago, right, Hummer? How's she doing?
She fractured her leg, her tibia. She fractured the tibia, crushed her one side of her patella. Her tibia patella plateau, which is what covers the tibia.
Yeah.
And crushed one side. She slipped in the garage on a little puddle, didn't fall down, and she probably should have fallen down because if she stood, she might have not done it. But 8 to 10 weeks, non-weight bearing. So that means I'm dishes, laundry, housekeeper.
Grocery store, maid,
Uber, grocery store. But,
it's about time. Susan's been doing everything for you all these years. It's about time you stepped up.
Yeah,
Jeez.
I know. Believe me, you appreciate it. But,
I know.
She's doing pretty good now. Her pain's pretty much gone. But
tell her I love her. Tell her I love her. Praying for her. And I talked to her last week. She's the greatest. Hope you guys get out to Colorado, brother, and tell Bradley and Nikki, the grandkids, I said hi and I love you, man. Thanks for coming on with us
too. And she already said, "Oh gosh, he is the best." I said, "Well, he is. I'm not kidding this time. I know you're embarrassed, but you are the best." And Chris, I just wish I could tell you're a great guy. I wish I could have met you in person. Are you all at different places?
Yeah. Rich is he's in Long Island, and I'm in Pittsburgh.
Long Island.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and he's in Pittsburgh. We see each other so much.
He called it Legitsburg. We call it something else.
Yeah, you guys called it Schittsburg. I don't want to swear this way.
Right.
That's funny. Oh, it's great.
I appreciate you having me on, and it's been a fun time. And we could do this again without being on. Going through our little talk and stuff.
I love it, man. This is so great. You do going down memory lane with you. This has been a lot of fun, man. There's so many things. There's so many things, and I still think about Austin and you and Dunn and Gravy and Dimitri and Pokey and all those guys. Yeah, Lark and Griff. Yeah.
Pokey. If they would have just never gotten rid of him.
Dude, greatest defensive player I've ever seen in my life. Pokey Reese, hands down. He spoiled me because I didn't have to go to my right. He had everything to his left, everything. And then I was like, what? And then he could cover short right field, short center field, and he covered on the other side of second. It was unbelievable, dude. I've never seen anything like Pokey Reese at second base. Sorry.
And then you got the meat hook.
Yeah.
One of the best.
He raked.
My fishing partner. I mean, good gosh.
The best.
Dimitri has just been, we keep up all the time on the fishing, and he's such a great guy. He's a great coach. He's had that team out there in California. He's been coaching the Spiders. And I know he was the Scorpions. You're the Spiders.
I was the Spiders, yeah. Don't get caught in the web. You got caught in the web, Hummer. You would have been caught in the web if we face each other.
No. All right.
All right, bro.
appreciate you.
Love you, Hummer.
Thank
Love you,
you.
man.
Really do.
See you, buddy. Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers, brother. See you, buddy.
Bye.
Dude, I told you I was going to be awesome. Tom Hume was the best.
I mean, I love sitting back when you get, especially with guys like that who are just, first of all, seems like the greatest guy in the world. If there's not too many, right? Am I crazy? You're not taking many coaches out with all the teammates. Like, it seems like he was one of the guys, but it seems like he had the respect of all of you.
Dude, big time respect of everybody. Like I said, him and Dunner are really close. Him and Gravy are really close. LaRue, me, we were. Everyone was close with Hummer. Just such a good guy. And whenever we go to team dinners, like Hummer, you want to come? Like, hey, we're going fishing. Hummer, you want to come? Yeah. Hey, we're going out here. Hummer, you want to come? Just he was one of us. So it's funny talking with him because he's more of a friend than a coach. He's more of a teammate.
And I got to say, just being able to kind of through osmosis be around you and all these Reds players from back in the 60s all the way to now. I'm sorry, that organization does something very right because he talked about all the things he learned from those guys. You guys all learned from guys like him, and it just seems like there's a total pay it forward thing with the Cincinnati Reds organization that has been consistent for as long as it's been in existence, I guess. The way you guys talk about each other and the passion for the organization is beautiful. It's really great.
Yeah, well, I think that they do a great job, too, the organization of, I think the history of the game, there's so many great players that have come through Cincinnati, and I think they do a great job of keeping that history alive, and I think people respect it. When you put on the Cincinnati Reds uniform, you respect the guys that have come before you, respect the guys that play now, and you respect the fans that come out, man. There's nothing better than Cincinnati Reds fans and just the love they have for that team.
Yeah, it's like a mutual loyalty between the players and the fans, I feel like.
It's the truth, man. It's the truth. It is one of the coolest. There's not a day goes by, brother, that I'm not so grateful I played there for 8 years.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, another great one, dude. Really psyched.
Yeah, awesome, man. Awesome job, Chinch. And, for everyone out there listening, thank you so much for continuing to listen to us. I hope you're having as much fun as we are, like we say, and subscribe to us, download it, like us, send a review, all that stuff. It helps us out a ton. So,
100%.
Chinch, I love you, brother.
Love
man,
you, buddy.
Stay grateful, and I'll see you next week.
You got it.
See you, buddy.